The Force had many voices. The Jedi spoke of its whispers, gentle guidance from the cosmic energy that bound all living things. The Sith knew its screams, raw power, waiting to be seized and dominated. But on this night, in the depths of an Imperial research station orbiting the dead world of Malachor V, the Force learned to speak in a language it had never known. The roar of damnation itself. Grand Inquisitor Jarek stood at the center of the ritual chamber, his Miraluka features twisted in concentration. Around him, 7 lesser Inquisitors maintained the circle, their red lightsabers stabbed point down into the metal floor, forming a cage of crimson light. The air shimmered with dark side energy so thick, it made the stationed stormtroopers outside vomit inside their helmets. Ancient Sith texts floated in holographic displays, forbidden knowledge from the archives of Treyas, speaking of dimensions beyond the known galaxy where power existed in its purest, most terrible form. The veil weakens, Jarek hissed, his foresight perceiving what others could not. Lord Vader promised us a weapon to crush the rebellion. Instead, we shall give the Empire access to infinite darkness. The ritual had taken months to prepare. Kyber crystals bled through Sith alchemy, formed the focal points. The blood of 100 prisoners guilty of sedition against the Emperor had been spilled to sanctify the chamber. Every word of the incantation pulled from texts that predated even the Old Republic. Jarek was certain. This would be his triumph, his ascension to Vader's inner circle. The space between the lightsabers began to tear. It wasn't a door opening or a portal forming. Reality itself screamed as something fundamental broke. The air cracked like glass. Through the fissure, they saw it not hyperspace, not another planet, but something else entirely. A realm of fire and chains and endless suffering. A dimension of judgment. And something in that hell turned to look back. By the Emperor's will, one of the Inquisitors whispered. What have we done? The answer came in hellfire. Flames that burned not with heat but with anguish erupted through the tear. The chamber exploded with light that was somehow darkness, fire that fed on guilt rather than oxygen. The Inquisitors screamed as the blaze washed over them, not burning their bodies, but searing their souls with every sin they'd committed in service to the Empire. Their lightsabers flickered and died. The ritual circle shattered through the rift. His motorcycle howled into existence, first a machine of chrome and hellfire that ignored every law of physics the Star Wars galaxy understood. Then came the rider himself, leather and chain and bone, wreathed in flames that had no right to exist outside a sun's core. The skull turned slowly, surveying this strange new realm with eye sockets that held only fire and fury. The spirit of vengeance had been pulled from one universe into another, and Zarathos was not pleased. The dimensional tier sealed behind him with a thunderclap that shook the station. Alarms shrieked. Blast doors slammed shut, trapping the Inquisitors inside with the creature they'd summoned. Outside, the station commander was already screaming into his comlink for Lord Vader. Inside, Jarek was learning the true meaning of fear. Impossible, the Grand Inquisitor gasped, his foresight showing him something that shouldn't exist. A being that registered as neither living nor dead, neither light nor dark. You are not of the Force. The Ghost Rider's skull tilted. His voice emerged as if dragged across burning coals, layered with echoes from the damned. No, I am its judgment. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The chain materialized in Ghost Rider's hand, 20 feet of hellfire forged links that coiled like a living serpent. He'd been torn from Earth mid-hunt, ripped away from punishing a serial killer in Arizona. The spirit of vengeance didn't understand where he was, only that this place reeked of sin. The souls around him were stained with innocent blood. That was all Zarathos needed to know. Destroy it, Jarek commanded. All Inquisitors. Strike as one, they tried. 7 red lightsabers ignited and descended toward the rider in a coordinated assault that had killed Jedi Masters. The plasma blades struck bone and leather and hellfire. Nothing happened. The lightsaber's weapons that could cut through blast doors and burn through nearly any material simply passed through the Hellfire without making contact with whatever supernatural substance formed his body. "Your weapons," Ghost Rider said, "cannot kill what is already damned." The chain lashed out. It moved faster than any of the Inquisitors could track, wrapping around the nearest one's torso and yanking him forward. The man screamed as Hellfire seared not his armor, but something deeper. His soul. Every life he'd taken in service to the dark side. All of it burned. Ghost Rider's skull came level with the Inquisitor's face. "Look at me." "No, Grand Inquisitor, help me." Look at me." Their eyes met. The Penance stare activated, and the Inquisitor experienced something worse than death. Every scream of every victim echoed in his mind simultaneously. Every moment of terror he'd inflicted returned 1,000-fold. His body convulsed. Blood ran from his eyes. When Ghost Rider released him, the Inquisitor collapsed, catatonic, his mind shattered by the weight of his own sins. The remaining 6 backed away. Through the chamber's viewports, they could see stormtroopers assembling outside. But no one was opening those blast doors. Not yet. Not until they understood what they were facing. Jarek reached out with the Force, trying to dominate the creature's mind. The dark side was his mastery. He'd bent will stronger than any mere beast. But when his consciousness touched Ghost Rider's, he recoiled as if burned. There were 2 entities inside that flaming skull. One was human, confused, angry at being ripped from his world. The other was ancient, vast, and utterly merciless. The spirit of vengeance, a demon of pure judgment that had existed since the first sin was committed in its home dimension. "You cannot command what you do not understand," Ghost Rider said, advancing. Each step left burning footprints on the metal floor. "I am not your weapon. I am your reckoning." The Ghost Rider's chain whistled through the air again, and another Inquisitor fell screaming. The others scattered, abandoning formation, abandoning strategy, driven only by the primal need to escape. But there was nowhere to go. The blast doors remained sealed. Outside, the station commander had made a fatal calculation: contain the threat at all costs. Ghost Rider pulled himself deeper into his human consciousness, wrestling with Zarathos for control. Johnny Blaze's voice emerged, slightly less demonic. "Where am I? What is this place?" Jarek saw the opening. "You are aboard an Imperial research station. We did not mean to summon you. Release us, and we will return you to your realm." The skull turned, flames flickering with what might have been Johnny's humanity showing through. "Your soldiers. I can smell the blood on you. We serve the Emperor. We maintain order in the galaxy. The rebellion would see it burn." "Order?" Ghost Rider's voice returned to its full infernal resonance. Zarathos had heard the lies. "I see your order. I see the worlds you've scoured, the innocents executed, the families destroyed. Your order is built on ashes and terror." Outside the chamber, cutting torches began working on the blast doors. Ghost Rider's head snapped toward the sound. But Johnny's consciousness pushed harder, showing Zarathos images of conscripts, of men following orders, of a galaxy at war where morality wasn't simple. The hesitation saved the stormtroopers' lives. For now, Ghost Rider turned back to Jarek. "You opened the door. You brought me here. Tell me everything about this galaxy, or I'll let Zarathos show you every soul you've damned." Jarek's foresight perceived the truth. This creature could do exactly that. The chain coiled back into Ghost Rider's hand, but the Hellfire didn't diminish. "Talk, and pray your sins don't outweigh your usefulness." The Grand Inquisitor began to speak, and Ghost Rider learned of the Galactic Empire, the Rebel Alliance, the Force, and the Dark Lord who commanded them all, Darth Vader. Johnny Blaze understood that he'd been pulled into something far more complex than his usual hunts. This wasn't a world of clear heroes and villains. This was a galaxy at war, and the spirit of vengeance had just become its most unpredictable player. The blast doors exploded inward 40 minutes later. Stormtroopers poured through with military precision, blaster rifles raised, expecting to find corpses or a containment breach. Instead, they found Ghost Rider standing in the center of the chamber, surrounded by 6 unconscious inquisitors and 1 terrified Grand Inquisitor, still talking. The scene looked like a painting of hell-scorch marks across every surface, the stench of burned metal and something worse, and at the center, a flaming skeleton who turned slowly to regard the new arrivals. "Hold fire!" the squad commander shouted, though every instinct screamed at him to shoot. His helmet's sensors were going haywire. The thing's body temperature read as impossible. Life sign detection failed completely. Threat assessment just blinked red across every category. Ghost Rider studied the stormtroopers. Through Jarek's terrified explanation, he'd learned they were soldiers of the Empire, the tyrannical regime that ruled this galaxy through fear and military might. But looking at them now, Johnny Blaze saw something else. Young men, conscripts, many of them. Their souls carried guilt. Yes, every soldier's did, but not the staining darkness of the Inquisitors. These were men following orders in a war they might not even believe in. Zarathos disagreed. The spirit of vengeance saw only servants of evil, tools of oppression. The internal struggle played out in Ghost Rider's flames, which flickered between intense hellfire and something almost restrained. "Stand down," Ghost Rider said, his voice still demonic, but less overtly threatening. "I have no quarrel with you, yet." The commander's finger tightened on his trigger. "You are to surrender immediately." "Or what?" The skull tilted. "Your weapons are plasma-based energy, yes? Superheated gas contained in magnetic fields?" Jarek explained your technology. "They won't work on me." To demonstrate, Ghost Rider stepped forward. A dozen stormtroopers opened fire on instinct. Red blaster bolts lanced through the air, each one powerful enough to punch through durasteel armor. They struck Ghost Rider dead center. The energy passed through the hellfire surrounding his body, dissipating harmlessly. The rider didn't even slow down. "Impossible," the commander breathed. "Nothing survives that many direct hits." "I'm not nothing," Ghost Rider replied. The stormtroopers backed away. Some fled entirely, their training evaporating in the face of something their doctrine had no protocols for. The commander stood his ground, but Ghost Rider could see the man's hands shaking. Fear. Good. Fear kept people honest. Behind him, Jarek tried to crawl toward the exit. Ghost Rider's chain shot out without the rider even looking, wrapping around the Inquisitor's ankle and yanking him back. "I've told you everything." The Dark Lord of the Sith, the Emperor's enforcer, the most powerful. "Tell me if he's guilty." Jarek laughed, a sound tinged with hysteria. "Guilty? He's murdered Jedi, destroyed planets, slaughtered anyone who defies the Empire. If guilt were measured in bodies, Vader would drown in them." Ghost Rider absorbed this. Vader, a name that meant something in this galaxy. Fear, power, death. And according to Jarek, he was coming. The station commander had sent a priority alert the moment the ritual went wrong. Vader would want to see what they'd accidentally summoned. Good. Let him come. Zarathos hungered to test this Dark Lord against Hellfire. But Johnny's human consciousness worried. He'd fought demons, angels, and even other spirits of vengeance in his time as the rider. He knew power when he heard it described. This Vader wielded something called the Force, an energy field that connected all living things, could bind, control, even kill with a thought. That kind of power, combined with Jarek's description of Vader's sins, meant Johnny was about to face something genuinely dangerous. The station shuddered. Ghost Rider's flames flared as his supernatural senses detected something massive dropping out of hyperspace nearby. Through the viewport, A Star Destroyer's wedge-shaped hull eclipsed the stars. The ship was colossal, larger than anything Earth had ever built, bristling with weapons and hangars. "He's here," Jarek whispered. "Emperor, save us all. Vader's here." Ghost Rider released the Inquisitor and walked to the viewport. The Hell Cycle materialized beside him, its engine rumbling with anticipation. Johnny had spent years as the rider, learning to navigate his curse, finding the balance between Zarathos's need for vengeance and his own desire to protect innocence. This galaxy didn't need a demon running wild. It needed judgment, yes, but measured judgment. The problem was, everything Jarek had described suggested this empire deserved no mercy. A Lambda-class shuttle detached from the Star Destroyer, its white hull stark against the void. Ghost Rider watched it approach the station, his flames casting dancing shadows across the chamber. The stormtroopers had retreated entirely now, sealing him inside with the unconscious Inquisitors' containment protocol. They'd rather blow the section than risk him getting loose. Smart, but ultimately pointless. Ghost Rider phased through the viewport as if it were smoke, stepping out into the void of space. He should have died instantly: vacuum, exposure, radiation, the absolute cold. Instead, Hellfire created a bubble of impossible existence around him. The Hell Cycle roared to life, its wheels finding purchase on nothing, and together, they rode toward the approaching shuttle. Inside the Lambda shuttle, Darth Vader stood motionless, his breathing apparatus the only sound. He'd felt the disturbance in the Force from across the sector, a tear in reality itself, followed by something alien and wrong entering the galaxy. The Inquisitor's report had been fragmented, panicked. Vader did not believe in demons, he believed in power. And if the Inquisitors had accidentally summoned a powerful being, then he would either recruit it or destroy it. The Emperor would accept nothing less. His meditation broke as his pilot's voice crackled through the comm. "Lord Vader, sensors detect an object approaching on an intercept course. Readings are inconsistent. Should we engage?" Vader stepped to the cockpit viewport. What he saw made even his mechanical breathing pause. A skeleton wreathed in flames, riding a burning motorcycle through the vacuum of space. The creature's eye sockets blazed with hellfire as it pulled alongside the shuttle, matching velocity with impossible precision. The Force recoiled from it. Vader reached out with his senses, trying to understand what he was seeing. The creature registered as neither alive nor dead. It existed outside the Force's natural order, a paradox that shouldn't be possible. When Vader pushed harder, trying to dominate it through force choke or crush its essence, his power simply slid off the hellfire like water off a shield. Ghost Rider raised one burning hand and pointed at the shuttle's side airlock. The meaning was clear. "Let me in, or I'll make my own entrance." Vader considered for exactly 3 seconds. "I will meet this creature personally. My lord, the safety protocols are irrelevant. Open it." The airlock cycled. Ghost Rider guided the Hell Cycle inside, flames dimming slightly in the pressurized environment but never extinguishing. The bike's engine rumbled to silence as its rider dismounted, boots hitting the deck with a sound like bones breaking. He walked through the shuttle's corridors, hellfire scorching paths into the metal, until he stood before the Dark Lord of the Sith. For a long moment, neither spoke. Vader's mask regarded the flaming skull. Ghost Rider's empty sockets met Vader's hidden gaze. Finally, Vader spoke, his voice mechanically modulated and utterly without fear. "I am Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith and Supreme Commander of the Imperial forces. You have entered my domain without permission. State your purpose, or be destroyed." Ghost Rider's response came with both Johnny's humanity and Zarathos's fury. "And I don't answer to tyrants." Vader's hand moved toward his lightsaber. "Then you will answer to the Force. Try it," Ghost Rider challenged. "Let's see which is stronger, your dark power or hellfire from a dimension you can't even comprehend." The shuttle's crew wisely evacuated. What happened next would be a confrontation between two of the most dangerous beings either galaxy had ever seen. Vader, who had slaughtered Jedi Masters and brought star systems to heel. Ghost Rider, who had faced down Mephisto himself and survived. Neither one knew how to back down. Neither one would be the first to blink. And somewhere in the distance, the Rebel Alliance intercepted transmissions about a burning demon fighting Imperial forces. They had no idea what to make of it, but they knew one thing. Any enemy of the Empire might be an ally worth investigating. The shuttle's interior became a battlefield. Vader moved first, his lightsaber igniting with that distinctive snap hiss, its red blade casting crimson light across the Ghost Rider's skull. The Sith Lord's power was legendary. He could crush throats with a thought, tear apart starship hulls, kill with a gesture. But as his force choke reached out toward the rider, the attack slid off Hellfire like rain off a hot skillet. "Interesting," Vader said, genuine curiosity beneath the mechanical monotone. "You exist outside the Force's influence. That should not be possible." Ghost Rider's chain materialized. The chain lashed out faster than Vader anticipated. The Dark Lord brought his lightsaber up, and when the Hellfire-forged links struck the plasma blade, something unprecedented happened. Neither weapon overpowered the other. The chain wrapped around the lightsaber, flames meeting plasma in a contest of fundamental forces. The shuttle's bulkheads groaned from the energy discharge. "Impressive," Vader acknowledged, pushing back with enhanced strength. "But strength alone will not save you." End quote. He released the lightsaber, letting the chain pull it away, and simultaneously unleashed a force push that would have sent a rancor flying. Ghost Rider slid backward, boots tearing grooves in the deck, but remained standing. The hellfire around him intensified, feeding on Zarathos's growing anger. "You're strong," Johnny's voice emerged through the demonic overlay. "But I've fought stronger. I've been to hell and back." Literally. Vader called his lightsaber back to his hand with the Force, the weapon flying from the chain's grip. "Then you know what it means to suffer. We have that in common. Brekid, Askrit." End quote. For a moment, Ghost Rider paused. Through the flames, Johnny Blaze's humanity perceived something in Vader's words: pain. Genuine pain buried beneath layers of mechanical augmentation and dark power. The man inside that armor was suffering, had been suffering for years. Zarathos sensed it too, but interpreted it differently. Suffering born from sins, from choices, from a fall into darkness. "If you've suffered," Ghost Rider said slowly, "yet you serve an empire built on their pain." "I serve order," Vader replied, circling. The shuttle felt too small for this confrontation. The Emperor has brought stability to a galaxy that was tearing itself apart. The Jedi failed. The Republic failed. Only through strength can peace be maintained. Peace? Ghost Rider's flames erupted. "I heard about Alderaan, an entire planet destroyed. Billions dead. You call that peace?" Vader's breathing was the only sound for 3 long seconds. Alderaan's destruction was necessary, a demonstration of power to prevent further rebellion. "Look at me." The words carried weight that transcended dimension. Vader turned, and Ghost Rider took a step forward, skull tilting. "I said, look at me. I am looking at, not with your eyes, with your soul. Look at me." The Penance stare activated. Ghost Rider's eye sockets blazed with unholy light that pierced through Vader's mask, through the mechanical breathing apparatus, through every defense the Dark Lord had constructed around his broken psyche. For the first time since becoming Vader, Anakin Skywalker felt every sin he'd committed, not as justifications or necessities, but as his victims had experienced them, the younglings at the Jedi Temple. Their fear as his lightsaber descended, Padme's horror as he force-choked her on Mustafar, every Jedi he'd hunted down during the Purge, every rebel executed for simply wanting freedom. Alderaan. Vader staggered. His breathing became ragged. The force around him convulsed, and Ghost Rider felt the feedback. Vader's power was immense, fed by decades of pain and rage. The Penance stare wasn't destroying him as it had the Inquisitor. Instead, Vader was fighting it, channeling the pain back into fuel for the dark side. "You cannot break me," Vader gasped, falling to one knee, but not falling unconscious. "I have lived with these memories every waking moment. Your torture shows me nothing new." Ghost Rider released the stare, genuinely shocked. No one had ever resisted it through sheer will. "You've been drowning in guilt for years, and you still serve the darkness?" "The darkness is all I have left," Vader said, rising. His lightsaber ignited again. "I cannot be redeemed. Only you can be stopped." The duel resumed with terrifying intensity. Vader's technique was flawless, Form V's gem. So variant, combining overwhelming power with economy of motion. Each strike came with force-enhanced strength that could cleave through durasteel. But Ghost Rider fought with something beyond technique, the primal fury of vengeance itself. His chain moved like a living thing, blocking, parrying, striking from impossible angles. The shuttle couldn't contain them. Vader force-pushed Ghost Rider through the hull, and they tumbled into space. The Hell Cycle roared to life, circling around as its rider, and the Dark Lord fought in the void. Vader used the Force to pull debris from the station as weapons. Ghost Rider wrapped his chain around an asteroid fragment and swung it like a wrecking ball. They were destroying everything around them. Inside the Star Destroyer, Admiral Kendall watched through the viewport, horrified. "Should we fire on them, my lord?" The hologram of Vader's age shook its head. Lord Vader ordered no interference. This is his battle. Ghost Rider and Vader crashed back onto the research station's hull, their fight tearing through the outer sections. Stormtroopers fled in every direction. The few who tried to engage found themselves caught in crossfire that could melt blast doors. Ghost Rider's Hellfire was spreading, feeding on the station's oxygen and the ambient guilt of everyone aboard. The flames hungered. "Your fire consumes indiscriminately," Vader observed, leaping away from a Hellfire explosion. "You claim to punish the guilty, yet you endanger everyone aboard." Johnny wrestled with Zarathos for control. The spirit of vengeance wanted to let the entire station burn. It was filled with Imperial soldiers and dark side practitioners. All guilty, all deserving judgment. But Johnny saw the technicians, the engineers, even some of the Stormtroopers' conscripts who hadn't wanted this life. "You're right," Ghost Rider admitted. And the flames began to recede slightly. "I'm losing control. The spirit wants blood." "Then you are weak," Vader said, "unable to master your own power. Or maybe I'm strong enough to question it," Johnny shot back. "When's the last time you questioned yours?" The word struck deeper than any physical blow. Vader froze, his lightsaber lowering by a fraction. The observation was too accurate. When had he last questioned the Emperor? The mission? His own path? Not since Mustafar. Not since Padme died. He'd sealed away that part of himself, buried it beneath duty and pain. Ghost Rider sensed the opening. There's still a man under that mask. I felt him during the Penance stare. He's suffering, trapped by choices he can't take back. "Anakin Skywalker is dead," Vader stated flatly. "I destroyed him." "No. You're just wearing him like armor, pretending his pain is your strength." Ghost Rider took a step closer. "I know what it's like to be bonded to something dark. The spirit of vengeance isn't me, it's a demon using my body. But I'm still in here, still fighting. You could too. For one moment, one crystalline, impossible moment." Vader hesitated. The part of him that had been Anakin remembered. Another who'd believed in him, who'd seen the good buried beneath darkness. But that person was dead. Padme was dead. The Jedi were dead. "You understand nothing," Vader said coldly, raising his lightsaber. "I am beyond redemption, and you are a threat that must be eliminated." He attacked with renewed fury, and Ghost Rider met him blow for blow. Their battle tore through the station, section by section. Imperial forces evacuated in droves. The admiral prepared to sacrifice the research facility entirely, already drafting the report to the Emperor. Then the Rebel Alliance arrived. 3 stolen X-Wings dropped out of hyperspace, their sensors immediately picking up the chaos. The lead pilot, a Twi'lek named Hera Syndulla, keyed her comm in disbelief. Gold leader to base. You're not going to believe this, but there's something fighting Vader. Something on fire. The rebels had come investigating rumors of Imperial research, and maybe an opportunity to steal data. They'd found something else entirely. Proof that Vader could bleed, or at least proof that he could be fought to a standstill. Ghost Rider saw the new ships and made a split-second decision. He wrapped his chain around Vader's lightsaber, yanked it from the Dark Lord's grip, and kicked him backward into the station's interior. Then he leaped toward the Hell Cycle, which had been orbiting nearby. "This isn't over," Ghost Rider called back to Vader. "But I'm not letting you kill anyone else today." The Hell Cycle roared to life, and Johnny guided it toward the X-Wings. The rebel pilots panicked, weapons going hot. Hera's voice came through tense and ready. "Unknown entity. Identify yourself or we will fire." Ghost Rider's skull turned toward her canopy, flames dimming enough that she could see his face clearly through her viewport. She'd seen many things in the rebellion, stormtroopers, inquisitors, even glimpses of Vader. But nothing like this. This was something from a nightmare, yet it had been fighting Vader. "I'm not your enemy," Ghost Rider said, his voice somehow carrying through space to her comm. "But we need to go, now." Behind them, Vader emerged from the station, fury radiating from him in waves. The Star Destroyer's weapons powered up. Ghost Rider dove toward the X-Wings just as turbo laser fire split the void. The rebels broke formation, and the flaming demon on an impossible motorcycle followed them into a hyperspace jump that tore through reality. Vader stood on the broken station, watching them escape. His breathing echoed across the wreckage. The creature Ghost Rider had resisted the Penance stare. Vader had none, but he would find them. And when he did, he would prove that nothing, not demons, not Hellfire, not even guilt itself could stand against the dark side of the Force. Back in the shuttle, Jarek regained consciousness. The Grand Inquisitor looked at the devastation and whispered a prayer to a dark god that wouldn't answer. They'd opened a door to another dimension seeking power. Instead, they'd unleashed something that might burn the Empire itself to ashes. The spirit of vengeance had come to the Star Wars galaxy. The hyperspace jump was chaos. Ghost Rider clung to his Hell Cycle as reality twisted around him, the motorcycle somehow maintaining cohesion through a dimension it had never been designed for. The X-Wings emerged near a hidden rebel refueling station on the edge of the Outer Rim, a converted asteroid with enough shielding to hide from Imperial sensors. The moment they dropped back into normal space, all 3 fighters trained their weapons on the flaming figure that had followed them. "Hold position," Hera barked over the comm. "Don't make any sudden moves, or we will blast you into particles." Ghost Rider's flames flickered, Johnny reasserting control over Zarathos. The spirit of vengeance was still furious at Vader, at this galaxy, at being torn from Earth without explanation. But burning these pilots wouldn't get him answers. He needed information, needed to understand this place before deciding who deserved punishment. "I'm not here to fight you," Johnny said, forcing his voice to sound more human and less demonic. "I need asylum, information, help figuring out what the hell this galaxy is." "You were fighting Darth Vader," the second pilot, a human male, said suspiciously. "Nothing fights Vader and lives." Long story. Really long. Involves another dimension, a botched Sith ritual, and a curse that won't let me die no matter how much I want to. Can we talk somewhere that isn't open space before the Empire shows up? Hera exchanged glances with her wingmen through their canopy viewports. This was insane. But the creature, whatever it was, had a point. If it had wanted to kill them, it probably could have during the hyperspace jump, and anything that could fight Vader was potentially valuable. Fine, Hera decided. Follow us to the station. But if you try anything, we have concussion missiles that'll turn you into vapor." Ghost Rider doubted that, but he nodded anyway. The Hell Cycle followed the X-Wings to the asteroid station's landing bay. The moment he entered atmosphere, the flames dimmed further. Johnny was fighting Zarathos hard now, using every ounce of will to keep the transformation from fully manifesting. This wasn't Earth. These weren't his usual targets. He needed control. The bike's wheels touched down on solid deck plating, and Ghost Rider dismounted. They'd heard stories about the Inquisitors, about dark side aberrations. But this was something else. The thing's skull seemed to track each of them individually, flames in its eye sockets, never quite focusing, but somehow seeing everything. Hera climbed out of her X-Wing, removing her helmet to reveal green skin and Leku Twi'lek head tails that marked her species. Ghost Rider recognized her from Jarek's hasty explanations about alien races. This galaxy was diverse, beyond anything Earth had imagined. Thousands of species, all mingling under either the Empire's tyranny or the Rebellion's desperate hope. "I'm Captain Hera Syndulla," she said, blaster pistol in hand but not quite aimed at him. "You said you needed help. Start with your name, Johnny Blaze." The skull tilted. "Or Ghost Rider. Depends on if you're asking the man or the curse." "That's not cryptic at all," muttered the male pilot, joining Hera. "I'm Wedge Antilles, and I've seen a lot of weird things in this war, but you take the prize." "Thanks, I think." Johnny forced the transformation to recede further. The Hellfire dimmed to a flicker, and slowly, painfully, flesh began returning to bone. It was never pleasant, the sensation of skin growing back over exposed skull, eyes manifesting in empty sockets, hair sprouting where only flame had been. Within seconds, Ghost Rider's skeletal appearance gave way to a man in his 30s, with dark hair, sharp features, and eyes that had seen far too much suffering. The rebels stared. Several lowered their weapons in shock. "How did you?" Wedge started. "The curse can be controlled," Johnny explained, breathing as if he'd run a marathon. "Mostly. The spirit of vengeance is bound to me, but I'm still human, most of the time." He looked down at his hands, normal human hands, no longer wreathed in flame. "I'm also really, really far from home." Hera holstered her pistol. "You mentioned another dimension. You're telling me you're not from this galaxy?" "Nah. Comment hast. Any home hast our mutt a re-ast. Not even from this universe, as far as I can tell. Your Inquisitors performed some kind of ritual on Malachor 5, trying to open a doorway to a realm of infinite dark power. They got my universe's hell instead. And they got me." Johnny sat on the Hell Cycle, suddenly exhausted. "I've been bonded to the spirit of vengeance for 5 years on Earth. Spent that time hunting down murderers, rapists, anyone who'd spilled innocent blood. Then I got yanked here, mid-hunt. The spirit's confused, angry, and wants to punish everyone it senses as guilty. And Vader?" Hera pressed. "You fought him to a standstill. No one does that. Your force doesn't work on me. I exist outside it. As for Vader..." Johnny's expression darkened. "I used something called the Penance stare on him. It makes people experience all the pain they've caused others. Should have destroyed his mind. Instead, he tanked it. I've never seen anyone resist like that." Wedge whistled low. "If Vader can shrug off your worst weapon, what does that say about him?" "Wedge, what's that say about him? That he's already drowning in guilt and has learned to use it as fuel," Johnny said quietly. "The man's a walking wound. Everything Jarek told me, the Jedi purge, the planets conquered, the lives destroyed, Vader remembers all of it. Feels all of it. And he's somehow turned that agony into power." Hera and Wedge exchanged troubled glances. "We need to report this to command," Hera said. "General Dodonna and Mon Mothma will want to hear about you." A being that can fight Vader could turn the tide of this war. No. Johnny stood abruptly. I'm not your weapon. I'm not anyone's weapon. The Empire tried to see me as a tool. I'm not doing the same thing for the rebellion. We're not like the Empire, Wedge protested. We fight for freedom. For freedom using what methods? Johnny challenged. Jarek told me about rebel tactics, sabotage, assassination, bombing Imperial facilities that might have civilian workers. You're guerrilla fighters, which means you don't always have the luxury of clean hands. The accusation hung in the air. Hera's expression hardened. We do what we must to stop a tyrannical regime. The Empire has enslaved entire species, destroyed worlds, and murdered billions. If we have to make hard choices to stop them, then yes, we make those choices. And I respect that, Johnny said. I really do. But the spirit of vengeance doesn't do nuance. It sees guilty or innocent. If I let it loose on this war, it'll burn everyone, Empire and Rebellion alike. I can't control it well enough yet. Then why help us at all? Wedge asked. Why escape with us, instead of staying to fight Vader? Johnny considered the question. Why had he? The spirit wanted to keep fighting, to burn Vader, and every Imperial on that station. But Johnny's humanity had pushed through, recognizing that mass slaughter, even of the guilty, wasn't justice. It was just more sin. Because I need to understand this galaxy before I start punishing it, Johnny finally said. Vader and the Empire are clearly guilty of atrocities. But war makes everyone guilty of something. I need to know who deserves the rider's judgment and who's just trying to survive. Hera studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Someone who can do what we can't. Like what? Like infiltrating places no rebel could reach. Like gathering intelligence. Like maybe, just maybe, scaring the Empire so badly they make mistakes. Hera's expression sharpened. You said Vader remembers his sins. That means the Empire's commanders do too. What if we had someone who could make them confront those memories? Make them hesitate? Break their morale? Johnny saw the angle. It was clever. The Ghost Rider, as a psychological weapon, not a blunt instrument. Use the Penance stare strategically on Imperial commanders. Show them the cost of their obedience. Break the machine from within by forcing its parts to remember their humanity. You're asking me to weaponize guilt, Johnny said. That's dark. We're fighting an empire that blew up a planet, Wedge countered. How much darker can it get? Fair point. Johnny looked at his hands again, remembering all the monsters he'd punished on Earth. Serial killers, crime lords, demons wearing human flesh. The Empire fit that profile on a galactic scale, but he'd also learned the hard way that vengeance without mercy became just another form of evil. I'll help, Johnny decided, but on my terms. I judge who deserves the rider's attention. No one orders me to punish someone. I do my own recon, make my own calls, and if I find rebels whose sins outweigh their cause, they get judged too. Deal? Hera extended her hand. Deal. Welcome to the rebellion, Ghost Rider. They shook, and Johnny felt the weight of a new war settling onto his shoulders. He'd been fighting evil on Earth for 5 years, small scale, one demon or murderer at a time. Now he was looking at a conflict that spanned thousands of star systems, involved trillions of beings, and had no clear end in sight. The spirit of vengeance stirred in his soul, sensing new targets, new sins to punish. Johnny pushed it down. Control. He needed control, because if he lost himself to Zarathos in this galaxy, there'd be no one left to stop the massacre that followed. Over the next hours, Hera and Wedge briefed Johnny on the state of the galaxy. The Emperor Palpatine ruled from Coruscant through fear and military might. The Jedi Order had been nearly wiped out 20 years ago. The Rebel Alliance was a fragmented network of cells barely holding together against overwhelming Imperial power. Vader hunted them relentlessly, and victories were rare and costly. Johnny listened, absorbing it all. This wasn't just a war between good and evil. This was a galaxy-spanning nightmare where both sides had blood on their hands, where the line between freedom fighter and terrorist blurred depending on your perspective, where even the most righteous cause required compromise with darkness. "There's something else," Hera said carefully. "The Force. You said you exist outside it. That's not normal. The Force connects all living things in this galaxy. The Emperor will want you captured or killed once he learns about you." "Let him try," Johnny said grimly. "I've faced the devil himself. Some dictator in a black robe doesn't scare me." "He should," Wedge warned. "The Emperor is more than a dictator. He's the most powerful Sith Lord in history. If he decides you're a threat, he'll throw everything at you. Fleets, armies, dark side practitioners you can't imagine. Then I'll burn through them," Johnny replied. That's what the writer does, but privately, he wondered if confidence was enough. And more importantly, what would Johnny become if he let the spirit of vengeance run wild in this galaxy? Would he be a hero, or just another monster wearing a righteous mask? The rebel alarm klaxons shattered his thoughts. Hera's calm crackled to life. "Multiple Star Destroyers. They found us." Hera's face went pale. "Vader. He tracked us." Johnny stood, and the Hellfire began to return. "Then let's give him a reason to regret it." "No." Hera grabbed his arm. "We can't fight that many ships. We evacuate. Regroup at another base. That's how the rebellion survives." "By running?" Johnny challenged. "By living to fight another day," Hera shot back. "This isn't about pride. It's about winning a war that'll take years. Decades. We can't afford martyrs when we're already outnumbered." Johnny wanted to argue. The spirit wanted blood, wanted to ride his cycle into that Imperial fleet and drag Vader back for another round. But Hera's logic was sound. This wasn't Earth, where he could hunt criminals one at a time. This was war, and war required strategy. "Fine," he growled. "We run. But next time we face Vader, I'm finishing what we started." The rebels scrambled to evacuate, loading transports with personnel and supplies. Ghost Rider followed Hera to her ship, a modified light freighter called the Ghost. As they fled the system with Star Destroyers in pursuit, Johnny watched the Empire's might fill the viewport. Hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers. A machine built on fear and death. And somewhere in that fleet, Vader was planning his next move. The spirit of vengeance whispered in Johnny's mind. "They are all guilty. Let me burn them. Let me show them judgment." "Not yet," Johnny thought back. "But soon. Because if the Empire thought Ghost Rider was just another anomaly to be studied and contained, they were about to learn a hard lesson. Hell had come to the Star Wars galaxy. Darth Vader stood in the meditation chamber aboard his Super Star Destroyer Executor, surrounded by absolute darkness. The Force swirled around him, thick with his rage and the strange disturbance that creature Ghost Rider had left in its wake. For decades, Vader had been the Empire's apex predator, the instrument of the Emperor's will, feared across thousands of systems. Until now, the Penance stare had been unlike anything he'd experienced. Not a force attack, not a physical assault, but something that bypassed all his defenses and struck directly at the core of what remained of Anakin Skywalker. The younglings' faces, Padme's final breath, Obi-Wan's disappointment, every Jedi he'd hunted, every world he'd helped subjugate. The creature had forced him to experience it all simultaneously. And the worst part was that Vader already lived with those memories every single day. His breathing apparatus was the only sound in the chamber. 3 meditation droids floated nearby, monitoring his vital signs and administering pain suppressants. The suit that kept him alive was also his prison, a constant reminder of Mustafar, of his failure, of the man he'd destroyed to become this machine of war, Lord Vader. The hologram of Grand Moff Tarkin materialized, crisp and businesslike. "The Emperor demands a full report on the incident at Malachor 5. He is displeased that the Inquisitor's experiment resulted in such chaos. "The Inquisitors are fools," Vader stated. "They opened a dimensional rift without understanding what lay beyond. The creature they summoned is not of this galaxy. It exists outside the Force. Standard tactics are ineffective against it. Can it be killed?" Vader considered. During their battle, he'd struck Ghost Rider with attacks that would have obliterated Durasteel bulkheads. The lightsaber had made contact, he was certain of it, but the wounds, if they could be called that, sealed immediately in Hellfire. Conventional death might not apply to such a being. Unknown. But it can be contained. Studied. The creature displayed moments of hesitation, internal conflict. There are two entities within that form, the human host and something else, something demonic. They do not always agree. Tarkin's expression remained neutral. "The Emperor wishes to speak with you personally regarding this matter. Prepare for transit to Coruscant." The hologram vanished. Vader stood slowly, joints aching despite the suit's motorized assistance. Palpatine would not be pleased with this failure. The Dark Lord had been sent to investigate an Imperial experiment and instead found himself fought to a standstill by an entity immune to the Force. Worse, the rebels had witnessed it. By now, rumors would be spreading. Vader was vulnerable. Vader could be beaten. Those rumors would need to be crushed. Violently. But first, he needed to understand Ghost Rider. The creature had mentioned something during their fight. A curse. A bonding to a spirit of vengeance. Vader had spent decades studying the dark side, learning forbidden Sith knowledge, but nothing in the archives mentioned entities from other dimensions. This was new territory. He activated his personal holocron, projecting star charts. The rebels who'd escaped with Ghost Rider had jumped to hyperspace along a route that suggested outer rim destinations. Multiple cells operated out there, small, fragmented groups that the Empire hadn't prioritized. That would change. Vader would hunt them systematically until Ghost Rider surfaced again. And next time, he would be prepared. His comm chirped. "My lord, Admiral Kendall reports 3 rebel transport ships detected in the Ryloth system. Intelligence suggests they may be evacuating a hidden base." Vader's cape swirled as he turned. "Assemble a strike force. I will lead the attack personally. Overly. Shall we alert the Inquisitorius?" "No." Vader's mechanical breathing filled the silence. "They have proven themselves incompetent. This hunt is mine alone." As his shuttle departed for Ryloth, Vader reached out through the Force, searching for any trace of the creature. Ghost Rider had vanished into the chaos of hyperspace, but Vader had touched its essence during their battle. The connection was faint, alien, wrong in every way, but it was there. Like a wound in the Force that wouldn't heal. He would find it. He would understand it. And then he would destroy it, proving once and for all that nothing, not demons, not Hellfire, not even beings from beyond this reality, could stand against the dark side of the Force. Meanwhile, aboard the Ghost, Johnny Blaze sat in the cargo hold, head in his hands. The spirit of vengeance was raging inside him, furious at being denied its judgment. Every time the ship jumped to hyperspace, Zarathos screamed, the dimensional transit aggravating the demon's already volatile nature. Johnny could feel his control slipping with each jump, the Hellfire wanting to burst free and burn everything. Hera's crew gave him a wide berth. They'd seen his transformation, watched flesh melt away to reveal burning bone, and none of them wanted to be nearby if it happened spontaneously. Only Hera herself seemed willing to approach, and even she kept her hand near her blaster. "How are you holding up?" she asked, standing in the doorway. "Barely." Johnny didn't look up. The spirit doesn't understand hyperspace. Every jump feels like being torn apart and reassembled. It's making Zarathos stronger, angrier. "I don't know how much longer I can keep him contained. We're heading to a safe world, Lothal. Remote enough that the Empire hasn't fully garrisoned it yet. You can rest there. Figure out how to control your condition." Johnny laughed bitterly. "You make it sound like a disease. Maybe it is." Hera sat across from him, carefully maintaining distance. On my homeworld of Ryloth, we have stories about spirits that possess the living, sacred guardians that punish those who violate our laws. My people would see you as holy, not monstrous. Your people would be wrong. Johnny finally looked up, and Hera saw the exhaustion in his eyes. I've done things as Ghost Rider that keep me awake at night, torn apart criminals with my bare hands, burned them alive with Hellfire, dragged them through the streets while they screamed for mercy I couldn't give. The spirit doesn't care about rehabilitation or justice systems. It only knows punishment. And yet you're still in control, Hera observed. You could have let it consume Vader's entire fleet. You chose not to. This time. But what about next time? What happens when we encounter an Imperial garrison and I smell the blood on their hands? What happens when Zarathos decides that a rebel who killed a stormtrooper even in self-defense deserves judgment? Bringing me into your war might be the worst decision you ever make. Before Hera could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared. Her comm crackled with Wedge's panicked voice from the cockpit. Imperial Interdictor cruiser just dropped us out of hyperspace. We're caught in their gravity well. Hera sprinted for the cockpit. Johnny followed, and as he ran, he felt it, the Empire's presence, the weight of sins committed in service to tyranny. The viewport showed an Interdictor-class star destroyer flanked by 2 smaller corvettes. TIE fighters were already launching, swarming toward the Ghost like angry insects. Hera's hands flew across the controls, bringing shields online and angling for escape. We can't fight them, Wedge said urgently. We're not going to. Hera keyed the comm. All hands, prepare for evasive maneuvers. We're punching through their formation and jumping the moment we're clear of the gravity well. Johnny watched the TIE fighters approach, and something inside him snapped. These pilots had chosen to serve the Empire. Every one of them had participated in the oppression of countless worlds. They weren't conscripts anymore, they were willing instruments of tyranny. The spirit of vengeance saw them as guilty, and Johnny was too exhausted to fight it. Open the cargo ramp, he said quietly. What? Hera shot him a look. Open ramp. Hellfire began flickering around Johnny's hands. I can stop them, but I need to get outside. Hera saw the transformation beginning and made a split-second decision. Do it. But if you die out there, I'm not explaining it to command. I can't die. Johnny's voice was already shifting, becoming layered with demonic resonance. That's the problem. The cargo ramp lowered, and Ghost Rider emerged. Flesh burned away to bone. The leather jacket remained, scorched and eternal. The chain materialized, wreathed in flames that had no business existing in the vacuum of space. And the Hell Cycle roared to life, its engine powered by something far beyond repulsor lift technology. He rode out into the void, and the TIE fighter saw him coming. For a moment, the Imperial pilots froze in disbelief. Their sensors couldn't lock onto him. He didn't register as a ship, as a droid, as anything their targeting computers understood. He was just a flaming skeleton on a motorcycle, riding through space as if it were a highway. Then Ghost Rider's chain lashed out, and TIE fighters began exploding. The weapon moved with supernatural precision, wrapping around solar panels and yanking fighters into each other. Hellfire spread across hulls that should have been fireproof, consuming them from within. Ghost Rider rode between the formations like a wraith, untouchable, unstoppable, leaving destruction in his wake. Aboard the Interdictor, the captain watched in horror. What is that thing? Can we target it? Negative, sir. Weapons won't lock. It's not showing up on any sensors. Then fire manually. Turbo lasers. Concentrate fire on that. Whatever it is. Green turbo laser bolts lanced through space. Ghost Rider saw them coming with preternatural awareness. The spirit of vengeance granted instincts beyond human reflexes. He twisted the Hell Cycle, banking between the shots, the motorcycle defying physics with every maneuver. One bolt grazed his shoulder, and the Hellfire absorbed it. converting the energy into fuel for Zarathos's rage. The corvettes joined the assault, filling space with blaster fire and concussion missiles. Ghost Rider rode straight through the barrage, his chain catching a missile mid-flight and whipping it back toward its launcher. The corvette's point defense systems were too slow. The missile struck the bridge, and the ship listed, atmosphere venting from the wound. Inside the Ghost, Hera's crew watched in stunned silence as a single being dismantled an Imperial formation that should have destroyed them. "Is he always like this?" Wedge breathed. "I don't think we've seen him at full power yet," Hera replied, already plotting their escape vector. The moment that gravity well drops, we're jumping. Ghost Rider heard her through some inexplicable supernatural sense and understood. The Interdictor was the priority. Take it down. Free the Ghost. He angled the Hell Cycle toward the massive cruiser, accelerating to speeds that should have torn him apart. The ship's ventral batteries opened fire, creating a wall of energy that no starfighter could penetrate. Ghost Rider wasn't a starfighter. He phased through the barrage, the Hellfire rendering him temporarily intangible, and slammed into the Interdictor's hull. The Hell Cycle's tires found purchase on the ship's surface, and he rode across it, chain dragging behind him, carving a glowing trench through armor plating. He could feel the sins inside this vessel. Every crew member who'd participated in dragging rebel ships from hyperspace. Every captain who'd delivered prisoners to torture. Every engineer who'd maintained the gravity well generators, knowing their work enabled atrocities. All guilty, all deserving judgment. But Johnny's humanity pushed through Zarathos's fury. There were hundreds of crew aboard this ship. Killing them all would make him no better than the Empire. He needed control. Precision. Target the systems, not the people. The gravity well generator. That was the key. Ghost Rider found the external housing for the generator array and wrapped his chain around the machinery. Hellfire poured through the links, not just burning but corroding, destroying the delicate hypermatter annihilators that created the artificial gravity field. The array overloaded, sparks erupting across the hull. Inside, alarms screamed as the gravity well collapsed. The Interdictor lurched, its primary weapon offline. "Now!" Hera shouted, and the Ghost leaped to hyperspace, vanishing in a flash of pseudomotion. Ghost Rider was left behind, still clinging to the Interdictor's hull as turbolaser turrets swiveled to target him at point-blank range. For a moment, he considered fighting. Zarathos wanted to board the ship, to burn through every corridor and show every crewman their sins. But Johnny won the internal struggle. He released the hull and dove into space, the Hell Cycle's impossible engine flaring. Without the Ghost to follow, he needed his own escape route. He reached for the strange dimensional sense that had brought him to this galaxy. The tier between realities that Jarek's ritual had created. It was faint, barely perceptible, but still there. Ghost Rider rode toward it, TIE fighters pursuing. He didn't know where it would lead. Didn't know if he could even reach it. But staying here meant either capture or a massacre he might not be able to stop. The dimensional scar pulsed ahead, a shimmer in space that the Imperial's sensors couldn't detect. Ghost Rider accelerated, flames trailing behind him, and plunged through. Reality twisted. The spirit of vengeance screamed. And Johnny Blaze found himself tumbling through the spaces between dimensions, heading towards somewhere else entirely. The Interdictor captain stood on his damaged bridge, staring at the empty space where the demon had vanished. "Report to Lord Vader immediately. Tell him the creature has resurfaced, and then disappeared again. He'll want to know everything." Far away, Vader felt the disturbance, a flare in the Force like a wound reopening. Something the Empire's technology couldn't track. The hunt had just become far more complicated. The dimensional scar spat Ghost Rider out above Lothal, a backwater agricultural world on the Outer Rim that the Empire used primarily for mining and food production. The Hell Cycle materialized in the planet's upper atmosphere, flames sputtering as it adjusted to local physics. Johnny wrestled with the transformation, forcing it to recede as he plummeted toward the surface. He crashed in the grasslands outside Capital City, the impact crater smoking but somehow leaving him unharmed. The spirit of vengeance's gifts, included near invulnerability, which was fortunate given how many times he'd been thrown across dimensions lately. Johnny lay in the scorched earth, breathing hard, his body slowly returning to human form. The Hell cycle rumbled beside him, engine cooling. In this galaxy, the bike had adapted, incorporating elements of repulsor lift technology that it shouldn't have understood, its infernal nature reshaping itself to function in this reality. Johnny didn't question it anymore. Zarathos operated on rules that transcended physics. Where the hell am I now? Johnny muttered, sitting up. The grasslands stretched endlessly, dotted with strange herbivores that scattered at his arrival. Twin suns hung in the sky, different from Earth's single sun. Different even from Tatooine's that Jarek had described. The air smelled wrong, tasted wrong, felt wrong. He was so far from home he couldn't even measure the distance. A transport ship roared overhead, not Imperial design, but a civilian freighter. Johnny watched it pass, then noticed something in the distance. Capital City, its buildings rising against the horizon. Smoke rose from the industrial sectors, thick and black. The Empire's presence was here. Unmistakable. Johnny climbed onto the Hell cycle, which purred to life without prompting. Guess we're walking into civilization. Try not to eat anyone, okay? The bike's headlight flickered in what might have been agreement. He rode toward the city, keeping his speed moderate to avoid drawing attention. The grasslands gave way to farmland, then to outskirts, then to streets, filled with beings from a dozen different species. Humans, Twi'leks, Rhodians, Ithorians. Jarek's hasty education hadn't covered half of them. Everyone moved with their heads down, avoiding eye contact with the white-armored stormtroopers patrolling every corner. The occupation here was quiet but thorough. Imperial propaganda posters covered walls, promising order and security. But Johnny saw the fear in people's eyes, the way they flinched when stormtroopers passed. This wasn't peace. This was compliance through intimidation. Zarathos stirred, sensing the oppression, wanting to erupt and punish. Johnny gripped the handlebars tighter, forcing control. Not here. Not yet. He needed information first. He parked the Hell cycle in an alley and walked into a cantina, the galactic version of a bar, apparently universal across cultures. The establishment was dimly lit, filled with workers from the local factories trying to forget their day. A Deveronian bartender eyed Johnny suspiciously but served him when he slid credits across the counter stolen from an unconscious inquisitor back on Malachor 5. "You're not from around here," the bartender observed, his voice gravelly. "Just passing through." Johnny sipped the drink, some kind of blue liquid that tasted like antifreeze mixed with regret. What's the Empire's presence like on Lothal? Heavy in the cities, lighter in the farmlands. They mine our resources, take our crops, and give us nothing but quotas and curfews. The Deveronian leaned closer. "Why do you ask? You with the rebels?" Johnny shook his head. "Independent. Just trying to understand this galaxy, then understand this. The Empire takes and takes until there's nothing left. They came promising jobs and prosperity. Instead, they've turned Lothal into a prison." The bartender's eyes narrowed. "But there's resistance. Small things, sabotage, smuggling, helping people escape conscription. Nothing organized." Before Johnny could respond, the cantina door burst open. Stormtroopers stormed in, weapons raised. "Everyone stay seated. Imperial intelligence has reports of rebel activity in this sector. We're conducting random searches." The patrons froze. Johnny felt Zarathos surge. These soldiers carried guilt, participated in oppression, served evil willingly. The spirit wanted them to burn. But Johnny held firm, watching, waiting. The stormtroopers moved through the cantina, checking IDs, searching bags. They reached a table where a young Twi'lek woman sat with her child. The lead trooper grabbed her by the arm. "Please no, my daughter, she's only 6. Imperial factories need workers. You should have reported when summoned." The trooper began dragging her toward the door. The child screamed, reaching for her mother. Johnny's grip on his glass tightened. The glass cracked. Hellfire flickered beneath his skin. Around the cantina, people looked away, unwilling or unable to intervene. The Empire had broken their will to resist, but Johnny Blaze wasn't broken. "Let her go," Johnny said quietly, standing. The stormtrooper turned. "This doesn't concern you, citizen. Sit down." "I said let her go." The trooper released the woman and aimed his blaster rifle at Johnny. "You're interfering with Imperial business. That's a crime punishable by imprisonment or death. And you're dragging a mother away from her child. That's a sin punishable by something worse." Johnny's eyes began glowing. "I'm giving you one chance. Walk away. Leave these people alone, or face judgment." The other stormtroopers converged, 6 in total, all weapons trained on Johnny. The lead trooper's finger moved toward the trigger. "Last warning. Stand down." Johnny smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. No, the transformation erupted. Flesh burned away in a wave of hellfire that swept across Johnny's body. The stormtroopers opened fire, blaster bolts striking Ghost Rider's chest and passing through harmlessly. The energy absorbed into the infernal flames. His chain materialized, 20 feet of burning judgment that lashed out faster than the soldiers could track. It wrapped around the lead trooper's rifle, yanked it from his hands, and pulled him forward. "Look at me." The Penance stare activated. The stormtrooper convulsed as every raid he'd participated in, every innocent he'd arrested, every family he'd torn apart replayed in his mind at once. When Ghost Rider released him, the man collapsed, twitching, his mind barely functional. The other troopers backed away, firing wildly. Ghost Rider advanced through the barrage, unstoppable. His chain caught another trooper, dragging him close for the same treatment. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, 4 stormtroopers lay unconscious or catatonic, and the remaining 2 fled into the street, screaming about demons. The cantina was silent. Every patron stared at Ghost Rider, terror and awe mixing on their faces. The Twi'lek mother clutched her daughter, unsure whether to thank the demon or run from it. Ghost Rider turned slowly, his flaming skull surveying the room. When he spoke, his voice carried both Johnny's humanity and Zarathos's fury. "The Empire thinks fear keeps you obedient. Let me show you a different kind of fear, the kind their oppressors should feel." He walked out into the street, where the 2 fleeing stormtroopers had alerted their entire garrison. 20 more soldiers assembled, along with an AT-ST Walker, a 2-legged combat vehicle bristling with weapons. The Imperial officer in command stood atop a platform, amplified voice echoing across the square. "Unidentified hostile, you are surrounded. Surrender immediately, or we will use lethal force." Ghost Rider mounted the Hell Cycle, which roared to life with flames erupting from its exhaust. "I've heard that threat before. It didn't work out well for the people who made it." The AT-ST's main cannon fired. The concussion blast should have vaporized Ghost Rider. Instead, he rode straight through the explosion, Hellfire shielding him from harm. The chain lashed out, wrapping around one of the walker's legs and yanking. The massive war machine toppled, crashing into a building. Stormtroopers opened fire from every direction. Ghost Rider wove through them on the Hell Cycle, the bike moving with impossible agility. He didn't kill Johnny, retained enough control to ensure that, but he judged. The Penance stare struck trooper after trooper, leaving them broken by the weight of their own sins. The officer watched his garrison fall apart, panic rising. This was something his training had never prepared him for. Retreat. Fall back to the compound. Call for reinforcements from. Ghost Rider's chain wrapped around the officer's waist, pulling him from the platform. The man dangled before the flaming skull, his composure shattering. "You've been taking people from their homes," Ghost Rider said, "separating families, forcing them into labor, all for the Empire's glory." "No, please, I was following orders. I had no choice. Everyone has a choice. Look at me." The Penance stare broke the officer. He experienced every person he'd conscripted, every family he'd destroyed, every life he'd ruined in service to Imperial quotas. When Ghost Rider dropped him, the man curled into a fetal position, sobbing. The garrison was defeated. Stormtroopers fled into the industrial sectors. The ATST burned, and Ghost Rider stood in the center of Capital City's main square, Hellfire blazing, a living symbol that the Empire was not invincible. Citizens emerged from hiding, watching the demon who'd saved them. The Twi'lek mother from the cantina approached cautiously, her daughter hiding behind her. Whatever you are, thank you. Ghost Rider's flames dimmed slightly. Johnny's humanity pushed through. Get somewhere safe. The Empire will send more soldiers. Probably worse ones. Who are you? Someone in the crowd asked. I'm Judgment, Ghost Rider replied. And I'm just getting started. But as he spoke, Johnny felt something else, a disturbance he couldn't quite identify. Not from the Empire, from something older. The Force itself was reacting to his presence, and not in a welcoming way. This galaxy had its own rules, its own balance between light and dark. Ghost Rider existed outside that balance, an aberration that the Force itself might try to correct. He'd won this battle, but Johnny suspected he'd just started a war with forces far beyond stormtroopers and walkers. In the distance, an Imperial shuttle fled, carrying footage of the encounter. By nightfall, every Imperial command center would have recordings of Ghost Rider. By morning, the Emperor himself would demand answers, and Darth Vader would be hunting once again. The Emperor's throne room on Coruscant was a cathedral of darkness. No windows broke the black walls. No light penetrated except the cold blue glow of holocrons containing ancient Sith knowledge. At the center, elevated above all else, sat Emperor Palpatine, wrinkled, ancient, with eyes that burned yellow with dark-side corruption. Darth Vader knelt before him, the only supplicant allowed in the Emperor's innermost sanctum. Between them, a holographic display showed footage from Lothal. Ghost Rider, tearing through an Imperial garrison, his Hellfire consuming everything it touched, his Penance stare breaking trained soldiers with a glance. Fascinating. Palpatine hissed, his voice like dry leaves scraping stone. The Inquisitor's ritual opened a door to another dimension, and this creature emerged. You fought it personally, my apprentice. Tell me, can it be killed? Unknown, my master. Vader's mechanical breathing filled the silence. Conventional weapons are ineffective. Lightsabers make contact but cause no lasting damage. The Force itself cannot touch it directly. The creature exists outside our reality's natural laws. Outside the Force? Palpatine leaned forward, interested now. Nothing exists outside the Force. It binds all living things. This entity appears to be an exception. When I attempted to dominate its will, my power simply dissipated, as if the creature occupied a space where the Force cannot reach. Vader paused, choosing his words carefully. It used a technique on me, the Penance stare. It forces the victim to experience all pain they have caused others, and yet you stand before me, unbroken. How did you resist? I did not resist, Master. I endured. The pain it showed me was nothing I do not already carry. Vader's hands clenched. Guilt is my constant companion. The creature's torture merely concentrated what I feel every moment of existence. Palpatine sat back, a thin smile crossing his withered features. Your suffering makes you powerful, Lord Vader. It is your greatest strength. This Ghost Rider sought to break you with remorse, never realizing you have weaponized that very emotion. He gestured at the hologram. But we cannot allow it to roam freely. It has defeated a garrison on Lothal, made contact with rebel operatives, and its very existence challenges the natural order. Bring it to me. Alive, if possible. I wish to study this phenomenon. Perhaps there are other dimensions we might exploit, other powers we might harness. Palpatine's expression darkened. End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. Cententanu power. End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. But if it cannot be captured, destroy it. Use whatever resources necessary. Deploy the Inquisitorius. Activate our hunter-killer protocols. Show this demon that in this galaxy, there is only one emperor. It shall be done, my master. Vader rose and bowed. One more thing, Lord Vader. Palpatine's voice stopped him at the door. The creature displayed hesitation on Lothal. It could have slaughtered the entire garrison, but chose to merely incapacitate them. That suggests a weakness. The human host still maintains some control over the demonic entity. Exploit that division. Force the host to choose between mercy and vengeance. When it hesitates, strike. Vader absorbed the wisdom. His master was right. Ghost Rider had shown restraint, suggesting internal conflict. That conflict could be weaponized. I will manipulate its human nature against it. See that you do. Now go. And Vader, do not fail me again. The dismissal was clear. Vader left the throne room, cape billowing, his mind already formulating strategies. Ghost Rider was powerful but not invulnerable to manipulation. Every being had pressure points. He simply needed to find this creature's. Meanwhile, on Lothal, Johnny Blaze had retreated to the grasslands outside Capital City. The Hell Cycle idled beside him as he sat in the scorched grass, head in his hands, wrestling with what he'd done. The garrison soldiers, he'd broken their minds with the Penance stare. Some might never recover. Was that justice or just cruelty? Zarathos whispered. They served evil. They deserved worse. They deserved worse. Johnny's humanity countered. They were following orders. Some probably had no choice. The internal argument was exhausting. On Earth, the lines had been clearer. Serial killers were guilty. Demon worshippers were guilty. Mob bosses were guilty. But here, in this galaxy-spanning war, everyone was guilty of something. The Empire committed atrocities, but its soldiers were often conscripts. The rebellion fought for freedom but used tactics that killed innocents. Where did Ghost Rider draw the line? A ship descended from the sky. Not Imperial. Not Rebel. A smuggler's vessel. Battered and patched 100 times, with a name painted on its hull. Outrider. The boarding ramp lowered, and a man emerged. Human, confident gait, wearing a blaster on his hip and a cocky grin. You must be the guy everyone's talking about, the smuggler said. Flaming skull, motorcycle that shouldn't exist, turned an Imperial garrison into a psychiatric ward. I'm Rendar, freelancer. Hera Syndulla sent me to find you. Johnny looked up. Hera? How'd she know I was here? Word travels fast when you torch stormtroopers in the middle of Capital City. Every comm channel in the sector lit up with reports of a burning demon. Hera figured it was you. Dash descended the ramp, keeping a careful distance. She wants you back with the rebellion. Says you're too valuable to waste hiding in grasslands. I'm not a rebel, Johnny said flatly. I'm not anyone's weapon. Yeah, she mentioned you'd say that. Dash pulled out a datapad, tossed it to Johnny. She also sent this. Intelligence briefing on Imperial targets. Places where the Empire's doing things that would make your spirit of vengeance real interested. Johnny caught the datapad, hesitated, then activated it. The screen filled with files. Slave labor camps on Kessle. Experimental weapons facilities on Scarif. Biological warfare research on Sullust. Prison barges where political dissidents were tortured. The list went on, each entry more horrific than the last. The Empire's not just tyrannical, Dash explained. They're systematically evil. These aren't soldiers following orders. These are facilities designed specifically to cause suffering. Hera thought you might want to do something about it. Johnny scrolled through the files, his jaw tightening. Zarathos roared approval, sensing targets that deserved absolute judgment. Even Johnny's humanity couldn't argue these weren't gray areas. These were concentration camps, torture centers, and genocide factories. "She's manipulating me," Johnny said quietly. "Showing me the worst of the worst to get me to join her war." "Sure she is," Dash shrugged. "But does that make the information wrong? Those places exist. People are suffering in them right now. You've got power to do something about it. The question is, will you?" Johnny stood, the datapad clenched in his hand. "If I start hitting these targets, the Empire will come after me with everything they have. They're already coming after you. You embarrassed Vader, humiliated a garrison, and proved the Empire isn't invincible. Although, they won't stop until you're dead or captured." Dash gestured to his ship. Hera's offering resources, safe houses, intelligence, transport, when your magic motorcycle can't cut it. In exchange, you hit targets the rebellion can't reach. And if I refuse, then you sit here in the grasslands until Vader finds you. Which he will, by the way. Guy's like a bloodhound when he wants something dead. Dash started back toward his ship. "I'm heading to Kessle, next supply run for the rebellion. Coincidentally, there's a slave labor camp there mining spice under Imperial supervision. Guards routinely beat workers to death. Completely coincidental information, of course." End quote. Johnny watched the smuggler go, war raging inside him. The spirit of vengeance wanted action, wanted to punish these atrocities. His humanity worried about losing control, about becoming the monster he hunted. But Dash was right, sitting here accomplished nothing. The Empire would keep hurting people whether Ghost Rider intervened or not. "Wait," Johnny called. Dash paused at the ramp. "I'll go to Kessle, but I work alone. I judge who's guilty and who isn't. No rebel oversight." "Hera figured you'd say that too. She's fine with it as long as you hurt the Empire more than you hurt us." Dash grinned. "Welcome to the war, Ghost Rider. Try not to burn my ship." Johnny mounted the Hell Cycle, which rumbled agreement. Together, they rode up the ramp into the Outrider. As the ship lifted off, Johnny took one last look at Lothal's grasslands. Somewhere down there, the garrison he'd broken was regrouping. Vader was planning his hunt. The Emperor was mobilizing resources. Let them come. The spirit of vengeance had chosen its side. Not with the rebels, not with any faction, but with the innocent victims of this endless war. If that meant burning through Imperial facilities one by one, then so be it. Aboard the Executor, Vader stood before a holographic star chart, marking worlds where Ghost Rider might strike next. The creature had a pattern it sought: the guilty, gravitated toward atrocity. That limited its options. There were only so many facilities that met Ghost Rider's criteria for judgment. "Lord Vader," his aide approached. "Intelligence reports suggest the creature may target Kessle. The labor camps there match its previous targeting patterns." "Excellent." Vader's hand closed into a fist. "Prepare my shuttle. Deploy the Inquisitorius to Kessle immediately, and activate Protocol 77. My lord, that protocol requires—" "I know what it requires." Vader turned, his mask regarding the aide coldly. "This creature has proven resilient to conventional tactics. We will try unconventional ones. If Ghost Rider wishes to punish the guilty, we shall give it an entire facility of innocents disguised as criminals. When it realizes its mistake, the hesitation will be fatal." It was a dark strategy, one that would sacrifice Imperial personnel as bait. But Vader had long ago learned that victory required ruthless calculation. Ghost Rider's morality was its weakness. He would exploit that weakness without mercy. The hunt was accelerating. And when predator and prey finally collided again, one of them would not walk away. Kessle was a nightmare made manifest. The prison planet hung in space like a diseased eye, its surface pockmarked with strip mines that delved deep into unstable geology. The Empire had turned this entire world into a labor camp, extracting spice, a valuable narcotic and hyperdrive coolant, using slaves purchased from criminal syndicates and political prisoners deemed expendable. Johnny stood in the cargo hold of the Outrider as Dash piloted toward the planet, studying the intelligence files. Thousands of beings worked the mines in conditions that made medieval torture seem humane. Tunnel collapses were common. Exposure to raw spice caused hallucinations and madness. Guards executed workers who failed to meet quotas. The entire operation was designed to extract maximum value before the laborers died. Zarathos raged inside Johnny's soul, demanding immediate judgment. "We're approaching the facility now," Dash called from the cockpit. "I'm registered as a supply transport, so we should get through the perimeter without issue. But once you start your thing, we'll have minutes before the whole garrison comes down on us." "How many guards?" Johnny asked, the transformation already beginning. His skin rippled, flesh preparing to burn away. "Reports say 200 stormtroopers, plus 50 facility administrators, 20 overseers, and an inquisitor named Seventh Sister stationed here permanently. Oh, and rumor has it Vader's in the sector. So, no pressure." Johnny's eyes began glowing. Vader can wait his turn. These slavers are first. The Outrider docked at the facility's main hangar, its transponder code stolen rebel intelligence granting them access. The moment the ramp lowered, Johnny transformed fully. Ghost Rider emerged in a wave of hellfire that made the hangar's atmosphere shimmer. Stormtroopers stationed nearby froze, their training evaporating in the face of something their doctrine had no protocols for. "Intruder alert," one finally shouted, raising his rifle. "Code Black." "We have a..." Ghost Rider's chain lashed out, wrapping around the trooper's weapon and yanking it away. The stormtrooper backed away, his courage failing. Sector 7, the deep mines. "But you can't. Watch me." The hell cycle roared through the hangar, flames erupting from its exhaust. Ghost Rider rode toward the facility's interior, smashing through security doors as if they were paper. Alarms shrieked. Blast doors slammed shut, attempting to contain him. He melted through them with hellfire, leaving glowing holes in durasteel. The facility was a maze of corridors and processing centers. Johnny followed the scent of suffering, a supernatural sense that Zarathos granted, an ability to track pain and injustice. It led him down, deeper into Kessle's crust, where the mines operated in perpetual darkness, broken only by emergency lighting. He burst into Sector 7 and found hell. Hundreds of beings, humans, Twi'leks, Wookiees, species Johnny didn't recognize, worked in conditions that violated every humane standard. They swung pickaxes at spice veins, their bodies emaciated from malnutrition, covered in chemical burns from raw spice exposure. Overseers walked among them with shock prods, delivering painful jolts to anyone who slowed. In one corner, a Rodian collapsed from exhaustion. An overseer raised his blaster to execute the useless worker. Ghost Rider's chain caught the overseer mid-swing, yanking him backward. The man's scream echoed through the mines as hellfire consumed his weapon. Ghost Rider pulled him close, skull blazing with fury. "Look at me." The Penance stare tore through the overseer's psyche. Every slave he'd beaten, every worker he'd killed, every quota he'd enforced, knowing it meant death. The overseer convulsed, blood streaming from his eyes, his mind shattered by the weight of his sins. The other overseers fled. The slaves stared, unsure whether to fear or cheer this demon who'd appeared in their nightmare. Ghost Rider turned to them, his voice carrying both menace and strange compassion. "You're free. Get to the surface. Steal ships if you have to. Just go." A Wookiee, massive, scarred, but still proud, stepped forward. He roared a question in Shiri Wook, the Wookiee language. Johnny didn't understand the words, but Zarathos comprehended the meaning. "Who are you?" "I'm Judgment," Ghost Rider replied. "And I'm here to burn this place to ashes." The slaves erupted in motion, some fleeing toward freedom, others grabbing tools as weapons to fight their former captors. Ghost Rider rode deeper into the facility, hunting guards and overseers. His chain found them in barracks, in control rooms, in offices where they counted profits from slave labor. The penance stare struck again and again, leaving a trail of broken minds. But Johnny maintained control. He only targeted those who'd actively participated in the cruelty, the guards who beat prisoners, the administrators who set impossible quotas, the overseers who executed the weak, the support staff, the maintenance workers, those who simply processed paperwork. He let them flee. Guilt was measured in degrees, and Ghost Rider judged accordingly. Then he felt it. A disturbance in the Force. Someone powerful was approaching. Then he felt it, a disturbance. Seventh Sister emerged from the shadows, her red lightsaber igniting. She was a Mirielon, her skin green and marked with geometric tattoos, her eyes cold with dark side corruption. "So, you're the creature Lord Vader seeks. The Emperor has offered a significant reward for your capture." Ghost Rider turned, chain coiling. "Another Force user. How many of you does the Empire have?" "Enough." Seventh Sister circled, her fighting style predatory. "The Inquisitorius exists to hunt Jedi, but hunting you will be far more satisfying." She attacked with enhanced speed, lightsaber striking in a blur of red light. Ghost Rider's chain met the blade, hellfire and plasma colliding in showers of sparks. They fought through the mining tunnels, their battle collapsing unstable sections and sending debris crashing down. Seventh Sister was skilled, trained in the dark side, enhanced by the Force, a veteran of hundreds of Jedi hunts. But Ghost Rider was powered by something the Force couldn't touch. When she tried to force push him, the attack slid off harmlessly. When she attempted to read his movements through precognition, his supernatural nature made him unpredictable. "What are you?" she hissed, frustration bleeding through her disciplined facade. "I'm what happens when another dimension's evil meets yours," Ghost Rider replied. "And I'm not impressed." His chain wrapped around her lightsaber, yanking it from her grip. Before she could call it back with the Force, Ghost Rider was on her, his flaming hand grabbing her face. "Look at me." Seventh Sister screamed as the Penance stare activated. She'd been a Jedi Padawan once, before Order 66. Before the dark side corrupted her, the stare showed her every youngling she'd hunted, every Jedi she'd tortured, every innocent she'd killed in service to the Emperor. But it also showed her the Padawan she'd been, idealistic, hopeful, believing in the Force's light. The contrast broke her. When Ghost Rider released her, Seventh Sister collapsed, sobbing, her connection to the dark side severed by the trauma. She'd likely never fight again, her will shattered by confronting what she'd become. Ghost Rider left her there and continued toward the facility's command center. Where were the 200 stormtroopers Dash had mentioned? Where was the garrison? He burst into the command center and found his answer. Holographic displays showed the facility's layout. The stormtroopers weren't absent, they were waiting. Surrounding Sector 7, where the freed slaves were attempting to escape, and at the center of the formation stood Darth Vader. Lightsaber ignited, an executioner ready to slaughter hundreds of innocents the moment Ghost Rider appeared. On the main screen, Vader's mechanically modulated voice echoed. "Ghost Rider, I know you can hear me. You have two choices. Surrender yourself, or I will execute every slave in this facility. You have 60 seconds to decide." Johnny's blood ran cold. This was a trap. Vader had anticipated his arrival, used the slaves as bait, and now held them hostage to force a confrontation. If Ghost Rider surrendered, the Empire would capture him, study him, possibly find a way to weaponize or destroy him. If he refused, hundreds of innocent beings would die. Zarathos roared, "Kill Vader, burn through his forces, save them." But Johnny's tactical mind countered. He needed a different approach. 45 seconds, Vader's voice continued. Choose. Ghost Rider stared at the screen, flames flickering with his internal conflict. This was exactly what Palpatine had predicted. Force the creature to choose between mercy and vengeance, then strike when it hesitated. But knowing the trap didn't make it any less effective. He reached for his comm stolen from an Imperial officer on Lothal. Dash. You still in the hangar? Yeah, but things are getting hot out here. Imperial reinforcements just arrived. Not yet. I need you to do something crazy. Story of my life. What do you need? Ghost Rider outlined the plan. It was desperate, likely to fail, and absolutely the only option he had. Dash listened, swore creatively, then agreed. You're insane. But hell, I've done worse for less. Give me 3 minutes. I don't have 3 minutes. Then I'll do it in 2. Ghost Rider cut the comm and rode toward Sector 7, toward Vader's trap. But he wasn't charging in blindly. He was gambling everything on chaos, surprise, and the one advantage he had that Vader couldn't predict. Allies who were just as crazy as he was. 30 seconds remained. The freed slaves huddled in the mines, surrounded by stormtroopers, watching Vader stand at the entrance like a dark god of death. Some prayed, some wept, some simply closed their eyes, resigned to their fate. Then the facility's power grid exploded. Dash had done it, used the Outriders' weapons to overload Kessle's main reactor from the hangar. Stormtroopers fired blindly, and Ghost Rider rode in like a comet, his Hellfire the only illumination in the absolute black. Vader's lightsaber blazed red, cutting through the darkness. Clever, but ultimately futile. We'll see about that, Ghost Rider replied. And the real battle began. The darkness was absolute. Kessle's mines, already deep beneath the planet's surface, became a void where only 2 sources of light existed: Ghost Rider's Hellfire and Darth Vader's crimson lightsaber. They circled each other in the blackness, while chaos erupted around them, freed slaves scrambling for exits. Stormtroopers firing blindly, the Hell Cycle's engine rumbling like a mechanical heart. You've condemned these innocents, Vader stated, his breathing apparatus the only sound cutting through the pandemonium. My soldiers will kill them in the confusion. Your soldiers can't see any better than the slaves can, Ghost Rider countered. But I can. The spirit of vengeance granted supernatural senses that transcended sight. Johnny could feel every life in the mines, the terror of the slaves, the aggression of the stormtroopers, the cold determination of Vader. He guided the Hell Cycle through the darkness with impossible precision, his chain lashing out to disarm soldiers before they could fire into the fleeing crowds. Vader reached out through the Force. Sensing the positions of everyone in the chamber, he raised his hand. An invisible power yanked a dozen slaves backward, pulling them into a cluster. I will snap their necks unless you surrender. Now, Ghost Rider felt the slaves being dragged by telekinetic grip, felt Vader's will tightening around their throats. Zarathos roared for blood, but Johnny's humanity seized control. He couldn't let them die, couldn't fail them the way he'd failed so many on Earth before learning to master the spirit. All right, Johnny said, the flames dimming slightly. You win. Let them go, and I'll... He attacked mid-sentence, the chain whipping toward Vader with blinding speed. It was a desperate gambit hoping to catch the Sith Lord off guard, with a feint. But Vader had anticipated the deception. His lightsaber caught the chain, and with a force-enhanced yank, he pulled Ghost Rider from the Hell Cycle. They collided in the darkness, grappling like titans. Vader's mechanical strength was augmented by the Force, each grip capable of crushing steel. Ghost Rider's supernatural resilience absorbed the punishment, Hellfire flaring each time they connected. They crashed through support beams, their battle destabilizing the already precarious mine structure. You fight with skill, Vader acknowledged, his lightsaber carving burning arcs through the air. But you lack discipline. The spirit possessing you is chaotic, unfocused. It makes you predictable. Vader. 4. It makes you predictable, and you're so traumatized by your past that you've turned yourself into a machine. Ghost Rider shot back, dodging a strike that would have bisected a normal being. The Penance stare showed me everything, Vader. Or should I call you Anakin? And the name struck deeper than any physical blow. Vader's assault intensified, fury bleeding through his usual cold precision. That name means nothing. Anakin Skywalker is dead. He's not dead. He's buried. Under grief. Under guilt. Under a mask you use to pretend you don't feel anything. Ghost Rider's chain wrapped around Vader's lightsaber arm, holding it in place. I felt him during the stare. He's still in there, screaming. Silence. Vader unleashed a force blast that would have pulverized stone. It struck Ghost Rider's chest and dissipated harmlessly. The Hellfire absorbing energy that couldn't touch him. You understand nothing of my burden. I understand being cursed with something you never asked for. Johnny's voice broke through the demonic overlay. I understand being forced to watch yourself do terrible things. I understand drowning in guilt while something dark uses your body. The words hung between them, truth cutting through decades of Vader's self-deception. For one crystalline moment, the Dark Lord hesitated. He saw himself reflected in this creature, a man bonded to darkness, struggling with the monster he'd become, using power that came at terrible cost. The moment passed. Vader's training reasserted itself. We are nothing alike. I have embraced my darkness. You still fight yours. That weakness will destroy you. He channeled the Force through his entire body, augmenting his speed beyond human limits. His lightsaber became a blur, striking from impossible angles. Ghost Rider parried with his chain, but Vader was pushing him back, toward a section of unstable tunnel where the ceiling was already cracking from their battle's shockwaves. Then the cavalry arrived. Explosions rocked the mine's upper levels. Blaster fire echoed through corridors. Dash Rendar's voice crackled over the facility's emergency comm system, somehow having sliced into it. Attention, Imperial forces. This is your daily reminder that the Empire sucks. Also, we're stealing your ships. The freed slaves had reached the hangar. Dash and several armed Wookiees, freed prisoners who decided to fight rather than flee, were covering their escape. The stormtroopers in the mines broke formation, torn between pursuing Ghost Rider and protecting their only exit. Vader felt his trap collapsing. All units, converge on the hangar. Do not let them. Ghost Rider's chain struck his breathing apparatus. Not hard enough to breach it, Johnny didn't want to kill him, but enough to crack the vocalizer. Vader's orders cut off in a burst of static. The Dark Lord staggered, his connection to his troops severed, suddenly vulnerable in the darkness. Now we're even, Ghost Rider said. No reinforcements, no hostages, just you and me. Vader ignited his lightsaber again. But his movements were different. Now calculated, defensive. Without communication, without his garrison, he was alone. And Ghost Rider was something he couldn't simply overpower. This changes nothing, Vader stated. You may escape today, but the Empire is vast. We will find you again, and next time, I will not underestimate you. Good, Ghost Rider replied. Because next time, I'm dragging you out of that suit and showing you what redemption looks like. He turned and rode toward the hangar, leaving Vader in the darkness. It wasn't mercy, it was pragmatism. Killing Vader would only make him a martyr, breaking him, showing him there was still humanity inside that armor. That was the real victory. Behind him, Vader stood alone in the collapsing mine, his breathing ragged through the damaged apparatus. The creature had spared him, not from weakness, but from something worse. Pity. The Dark Lord of the Sith had been judged and found salvageable. It was intolerable. Ghost Rider burst into the hangar to find organized chaos. The freed slaves were loading onto stolen Imperial shuttles, Dash's outrider providing covering fire against the remaining stormtroopers. The Wookiees fought with improvised weapons and raw strength, their liberation fury making them unstoppable. "About time!" Dash shouted. "I was starting to think Vader ate you." We had a chat. Ghost Rider's chain lashed out, taking down the last AT-ST walker that was targeting the fleeing shuttles. "Everyone accounted for?" End quote. "Also walkers." Quote, "Most of them. Some didn't make it, but we saved hundreds." Dash fired his blaster at an approaching squad. "Now, can we please leave before more Imperials show up?" Ghost Rider nodded and rode up the Outrider's ramp. The moment he was aboard, Dash punched the engines. They blasted out of the hangar just as Imperial reinforcements arrived, 3 Star Destroyers dropping out of hyperspace, their weapons already charging. "Hang on." Dash yanked the controls, sending the ship into a wild, evasive pattern. Turbo laser fire filled the space around them. One bolt grazed their shields, alarms screaming. "We're not going to make it to hyperspace distance." Ghost Rider dismounted the Hell Cycle and walked to the cargo bay's exterior hatch. "Open it." "Open it. Are you insane? We're in vacuum." "Open it." Dash cursed but complied. The hatch blew open, atmosphere venting in a controlled burst, and unleashed the spirit of vengeance's full power. Hellfire erupted from his body in a wave that spread across space like a solar flare. It didn't burn the ships, even Zarathos recognized that would kill innocents, but it overloaded their sensors, temporarily blinding targeting computers. The Star Destroyer's weapons fell silent, their systems scrambling to compensate for energy readings that made no sense. In that moment of confusion, Dash jumped to hyperspace. The Outrider and the stolen shuttles vanished into the safety of faster-than-light travel, leaving the Imperial fleet behind. Ghost Rider pulled himself back into the ship, the transformation receding. Johnny collapsed against the bulkhead, exhausted. "Did we get them all?" "Most of them," Dash repeated, shutting the hatch. "You saved hundreds of lives today, Rider. That's got to count for something." Johnny thought of the slaves who hadn't made it, the overseers whose minds he'd shattered. Seventh Sister, broken and weeping. Vader, left alive but tormented. Had he done good today, or just created more suffering? Zarathos whispered, "The guilty were punished. That is all that matters." But Johnny's humanity wasn't sure anymore. The rebel base on Yavin IV was alive with activity when the Outrider and the stolen shuttles arrived 3 days later. The ancient temple that housed the Alliance's command center had been converted into a hive of military operations, technicians maintaining starfighters, soldiers drilling in jungle clearings, strategists plotting their next moves against the Empire. It was organized chaos, the desperate efficiency of people who knew they were fighting a war they'd probably lose. Johnny stood in a briefing room with Rebel Command, still in his leather jacket but fully human now. The transformation hadn't manifested since Kessle Zarathos seemed satisfied with the judgment they delivered, at least temporarily. Around the table sat the Alliance's leadership. Mon Mothma, a regal woman who radiated calm authority. General Jan Dodona, a military tactician with decades of experience. And Hera Syndulla, who'd vouched for Ghost Rider's value to the cause. "The liberation of Kessle has sent shockwaves through Imperial command," Mon Mothma said, her voice measured. "You freed over 400 slaves and destroyed a facility that produced significant revenue for the Empire. More importantly, you've proven that Darth Vader is not invincible." "I didn't beat him," Johnny corrected. "We fought to a draw. He's learning my patterns, adapting. Next time will be harder, but there will be a next time," Dodona interjected. "The Empire knows about you now. Emperor Palpatine himself has reportedly issued orders regarding your capture. You've become a symbol proof that the Empire's enforcers can be challenged." Johnny shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't come to this galaxy to be anyone's symbol. I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in this mess." "You fit wherever innocents need protection," Hera said firmly. "That's what the rebellion is. People protecting those who can't protect themselves." Your methods are unconventional, but they're effective. My methods break people's minds. Johnny countered. Seventh sister will probably never recover from the penance stare. Is that justice or just torture? Mon Mothma's expression didn't waver. The Inquisitors have murdered countless Jedi, hunted Force-sensitive children, and served as the Emperor's instruments of terror. What you did to Seventh Sister may seem harsh, but consider what she would have done to the slaves had you not intervened. That's the problem, Johnny said quietly. In this galaxy, everyone justifies their actions by pointing at someone worse. The Empire tortures, so the Rebellion assassinates. The Sith kill, so the Jedi hunted them to extinction. Where does it end? The room fell silent. Johnny's words struck at the heart of the conflict that had consumed this galaxy for generations, the cycle of violence that each side perpetuated while claiming moral superiority. Finally, Mon Mothma spoke. It ends when people choose to break the cycle. We fight the Empire not to become like them, but to create a galaxy where such tyranny cannot exist. If you wish to help us achieve that, we welcome you. If you prefer to work independently, we respect that. But either way, the Empire will hunt you. Johnny considered. She was right, there was no running from this. Vader knew about him. The Emperor wanted him captured. Every Imperial facility would be on alert for a flaming skeleton on a motorcycle. He could hide, but hiding meant abandoning people like the Kessle slaves to their suffering. Or he could fight. Not as a rebel, but as what he'd always been, a hunter of the guilty. I'll hit Imperial targets, Johnny decided. Places where the Empire's crimes are undeniable. But I won't follow orders, and I won't compromise my judgment for political strategy. The spirit of vengeance answers to one law: punish the guilty. Protect the innocent. That's the deal. Mon Mothma extended her hand. Then we have an accord. The Alliance will provide intelligence and support. You provide the force the Empire cannot predict or contain. They shook, sealing an alliance that was more philosophical than tactical. Johnny Blaze wasn't a rebel soldier. He was something far more dangerous. A wild card in a galactic war. An element of chaos that neither the Empire nor even the Rebellion could fully control. Over the following weeks, Ghost Rider became a phantom haunting the Empire's darkest corners. He struck slave processing centers on Ryloth, freeing Twi'lek civilians sold into servitude. He burned through an Imperial biological weapons facility on Felucia, destroying viruses designed to eradicate entire species. He interrupted an execution on Onderon, where political dissidents were being murdered on live holovid broadcasts. Each operation was surgical. Precise Johnny had learned to channel Zarathos's fury into targeted judgment rather than indiscriminate destruction. But the Empire was adapting. Vader deployed specialized hunter-killer squads, armed with experimental weapons designed to counter supernatural threats. The Inquisitorius, despite their fear of Ghost Rider, developed tactics specifically for fighting an enemy immune to the Force. Bounty hunters whispered about the massive reward Palpatine had placed on the burning demon's capture. And then there were the complications Johnny hadn't anticipated. On a mission to rescue prisoners from an Imperial transport, he encountered a stormtrooper who surrendered immediately, begging for mercy. The man's sins were minimal. He'd never executed anyone, never tortured prisoners, had only served on security details for supply convoys. But he wore the armor of the Empire, carried its weapons, enabled its operations through his service. Was he guilty? Johnny's humanity said no. The spirit and the man wrestled for control while the trooper wept, and Johnny realized he still hadn't solved the fundamental problem. Where do you draw the line? He let the trooper go. Zarathos raged, but Johnny held firm. Not everyone who served the Empire deserved damnation. Some were victims of propaganda, conscription, or simple desperation. Ghost Rider could punish architects of atrocity, but not every soldier following orders. Vader, meanwhile, was piecing together Ghost Rider's psychology. The creature displayed patterns. It targeted facilities that harmed innocents, avoided collateral damage when possible, hesitated when confronted with moral complexity. Those hesitations were exploitable. The Dark Lord began preparing a trap that would force Ghost Rider into an impossible choice. One that would break either the human or the spirit. On Coruscant, Emperor Palpatine studied reports with growing fascination. The creature from another dimension wasn't just powerful, it represented a fundamental challenge to the Sith philosophy. The dark side taught that power came from embracing passion, anger, and fear. It was antithetical to everything Palpatine believed, which meant it had to be destroyed. The Emperor began formulating a plan that would take months to execute, but would ultimately force Ghost Rider to choose. Embrace total vengeance and become a monster, or reject the spirit and lose the power to protect anyone. But Palpatine didn't know something crucial about Johnny Blaze. He'd been fighting this internal war for years on Earth. He'd learned to walk the razor's edge between human and demon, mercy and judgment, protection and punishment. The Emperor's trap would be sophisticated, but Johnny had survived the Devil's machinations. This would just be round 2. Back on Yavin IV, Johnny sat alone in the jungle, listening to the sounds of an alien world. Twin moons hung in the sky, neither of them Earth's familiar lunar companion. He was so far from home, trapped in a galaxy at war, bonded to a demon that wanted to burn everything. But for the first time since arriving, he felt purpose. Not the blind vengeance that had defined his early days as Ghost Rider, but something more refined. He was learning to be what this galaxy needed, not a hero, not a villain, but judgment itself. Imperfect, complicated, constantly questioning, but ultimately dedicated to one principle. The innocent deserved protection, and the guilty deserved consequences. The hell cycle rumbled nearby, its engine idling in agreement. "You ready for the next one?" Johnny asked the bike. It revved in response. Johnny stood, pulling on his jacket. Somewhere in this vast galaxy, the Empire was committing another atrocity. Vader was planning his next move. The Emperor was scheming. The rebellion was fighting its desperate war, and Ghost Rider would ride into all of it, bringing hellfire and judgment to a galaxy that had forgotten what accountability meant. The spirit of vengeance had found a new hunting ground, and the Empire was about to learn that some demons couldn't be contained, controlled, or killed. They could only be survived. The war between the Galactic Empire and the Rebel Alliance would rage for years to come, but it would never be the same after Ghost Rider's arrival. Johnny Blaze had become something the galaxy had no precedent for, an agent of judgment that answered to neither the light side nor the dark, operating outside the Force's ancient balance. He was chaos in a conflict that both sides had tried to control through military might and political maneuvering. Vader continued his hunt, each encounter teaching him more about Ghost Rider's limits and vulnerabilities. The Dark Lord recognized a kindred spirit in the creature. Both were men destroyed by their choices, rebuilt as instruments of power, struggling with the humanity they'd tried to bury. Their confrontations became less about victory and more about understanding, two broken beings searching for meaning in their curses. The Emperor, however, saw only a threat to be eliminated. Palpatine's schemes grew increasingly elaborate, designed to corrupt or destroy the spirit of vengeance before it could inspire others to challenge the Sith's dominion. He understood that Ghost Rider represented something dangerous. Proof that power could exist independent of the Force, that judgment could come from sources beyond his control. And the rebellion found in Ghost Rider both an asset and a mirror. His presence forced them to confront uncomfortable questions about their own methods, their own compromises with darkness in service of a righteous cause. Some saw him as a necessary evil. Others viewed him as a reminder that justice required more than just defeating the Empire. It required becoming something better than their enemies. But Johnny's greatest battle wasn't with the Empire, or even with Vader. It was the daily struggle to maintain control over Zarathos, to keep the spirit of vengeance from consuming everything in Hellfire. Each judgment he delivered, each sin he punished, fed the demon's hunger. Johnny walked a razor's edge between righteousness and monstrosity, knowing that one slip would transform him from protector into destroyer. The galaxy far, far away, had been forever changed by the arrival of an entity from another dimension. Imperial officers whispered about the burning demon in hushed tones, their fear eroding the facade of invincibility the Empire relied upon. Slaves and prisoners spoke of Ghost Rider as a legend, a spirit of liberation that came when hope seemed lost. The Force itself trembled at his presence, sensing something that existed outside its natural order. And somewhere in the vastness of space, racing between star systems on a motorcycle that defied physics, Johnny Blaze continued his impossible mission. He would spare those who deserved mercy. He would fight Vader until one of them finally understood the other, and he would search for a way home, even as he accepted that this galaxy might need Ghost Rider more than Earth ever had. The spirit of vengeance had entered the Star Wars galaxy, and the flames of judgment would burn until every sin was accounted for. May the Force be with you. More stories await.